Before I get started, I would really want to prick your brains today, right? I would look at a lot of interaction between us. The learning would not essentially happen unless, we are interacting in the center. And please use the chat window for your responses whenever I ask you for. In this session, at least for the first few minutes, I would require you to have a pen and pencil with you. So if you have it, great. Otherwise, just raise your hand and ask someone to get you a piece of paper. While we are doing it, let me start with the first exercise. I want you to think of a number between 1 and 9. Think of any one number between 1 and 9. If you have done that, I want you to follow the second instruction, which is to multiply that number with the number 9. And it is very likely, in fact, it's highly likely that you will have a 2-digit number, in which case you will add the 2 digits in a fashion that you end up getting a single-digit number. Is this instruction clear to everyone? Please type yes. Fantastic. Thank you so much. This will help. Yeah, even an S will do while I was looking for an yes, but any responses are fantastic. Now, I would want you to subtract 5 from the number that you had. Don't worry, we're not doing mathematics today. I have no intentions of doing mathematics beyond this point. If you have done that, I want you to think of the corresponding English alphabet. The corresponding English alphabet of the number that you have. So if you have 1, it's A. If it's 2, then it's B, likewise. If you have done, send me a yes or I. I want you to think of a European country starting with the corresponding English alphabet. Whenever you're done, type done. Think of the corresponding English alphabet or the country with that corresponding alphabet. The last letter of that country, think of an animal which starts with the last letter of that country. If it was India, then it is A, I-N-D-I-A. Now think of a color starting with the last letter of that animal. I want to see I if you have done the whole bit up till now. Fantastic, love it. How many of you got orange, kangaroo, and Denmark in the reverse order? I would appreciate if you're using the chat window for your responses. Fantastic. So there was a little bit of trick option for, if you have little interest hand in mathematics, your alphabet, the first alphabet had to be a 4, or the word number had to be 4. That's typically the one of the properties of table of 9, right? You get a total of 5 and then you deduct 5 from there. But yeah, there is no magic in what we did. It's pure science, a bit of psychology, but it's human. And this is what our today's session is also all about. I think one of the things that differentiates us from so many others on this earth is our abilities to bounce back. Tanmay, let's try one more, and then probably we'll be able to get our context into the session. If you have a pen and paper with you, unlike the previous one, which could have been done mentally, this one necessarily will need to be done on a piece of paper. What you see on your screens is are 9 dots. They typically look like a square. So what you see on your screens, Lavanya and others, are 9 dots. I want you to connect the 9 dots using 4 straight lines without lifting your hand from the paper. Connect the 9 dots using 4 straight lines without lifting your hand from the paper. So don't, once you start, you need to keep doing it in whichever fashion. And for some of you who are thinking of making loops, please understand loops would typically be an n number of lines. Lines are straight. All of you are smart, big kids between class 9 to class 12, so you understand what a line is. I'm going to give you half a minute. Typically, achievers, irrespective of their IQ, are able to solve it in less than a minute's time. But that's typically, a lot of adults. I believe children are far more smarter. So I'll give you 40 seconds to complete this. If you have done this before, I want you to do it again. There is more than one way of doing it. So if you have one of the ways of, if you've done it before and you have done it in a particular fashion, it might be worthy to actually try an alternate way of doing it. If the instructions are clear, I want you to type yes. Fantastic. Connect the 9 dots using 4 lines without lifting your hand from the paper. Don't try and fold the paper. Don't try and trick the paper. Yes. It might not have a straitjacket approach, but then, don't fold the paper 3-4 times and think, there's an answer to it. I think it's about challenging your mind. What I often see in children and people my age is they're getting conditioned. So irrespective of what the mental conversation is, I want you to give it a try. Anyone who's been able to do it? No kid. 8 is, I'm sure there are others who have done it. Aryan says he's done it. Fantastic, Aryan. You can always send me your solution over a WhatsApp. Here is my number. You don't need to do it now. Anyone else who's done it? Would you need more time? Or should I show you the answer? Would you like to try it a couple of times before I show you the solution? Say a yes or a no. Do you need more time? Ten more seconds. Two more try, Rashmi. And others who have asked for more time. For the benefit of all and you know, this is one of the solutions, kids. And when I was saying that a lot of us condition ourselves, the problem was many of us in this room were either thinking like this, or we were thinking like this, or some of us might be thinking of doing it like this. We conditioned ourselves, we constrained ourselves in those four lines. And what you needed to do was to go beyond. And that's what I mean when I say, you know, unbox yourself. But let's come and reflect on what actually happened to us in the last two exercises that we did. One of the first important things that I wanted to understand from you is, when you started, what was your self-conversation? My feeling is some of us, and trust me, there's nothing right or wrong about it. You know, when I was your age, I was one who wouldn't have tried it. Were you able to solve the puzzle? Did you listen to the instructions clearly? But what was the conversation that was happening with you? Were you sure that you're going to try and solve and give it your best? I'm not necessarily keen on understanding what the outcome was. I'm keen to understand what is the self-conversation that I had with myself. That I will be able to do it, or, hey, listen, you know, it's for the smarter ones. I won't be able to do it. You know, one of my colleagues, a very senior guy in the industry, said, "Koi bechara nahi hota." You know, nobody is helpless. You choose to become one. And trust you me, this is what differentiates the winners from others. You know, what we experience in the first exercise is almost everyone in this room thinks alike. Almost everyone in this room thought of Denmark, kangaroo, orange. Were there options available? Yes, there were a few options available. But top of the mind, that's what people were. So more, if you have to excel, we will need to have the right conversation. We will need to build an ability to bounce back when we face adversity. That could be poor marks in my last examination. It could be me being scolded in public. It could be my behavior. It could be many of the reasons. It could be a personal loss. It could be so many other things. What is important and what we are discussing today, kids, is our ability to cope and bounce back when we face adversity. When we are made to change a school, I changed 7 schools when I was growing up. Not because, I was a disaster. It was largely because my father worked in army and I had to change, because of his constant move. How would one receive? How are you responding to an attempt that, the last project that you wanted to participate and you were not selected? How did I receive that? Did I commit that I will not participate again? Would I look at and say, hey, listen, it's people around me are partial. Or did I say that I was unlucky this time? Maybe the luck doesn't favor me. Over the next 15, 20, half an hour is what we will focus on is how do we recognize and bounce back. Resilience is like rubber band. It's elastic. It's flexible. So even if you stretch it to a point, it has an ability to come back and take its original shape. That is what you need to bring into your character. But a word of caution for each one of you. Please understand, all rubber bands do not have the same elasticity. You cannot stretch all, rubber bands equally. Similarly, each one of us in this room has very different abilities in terms of taking pressure, straining ourselves. We need to recognize our personal limitations. I am not indicating that we need to compromise on that. I am asking you to recognize that each one of us in this room is unique and our ability to take pressure is also different from each other. And hence, it is not right to compare myself with others. However, in the later part of the session, we will surely talk about how do we improve on it, right? Just to take my point further, all of you in this room have seen a carrot, an egg, and a coffee bean. Can you visualize a carrot which is very hard, an egg which has a fragile exterior and a lot of fluid inside, and coffee beans which is a hard piece, If you put all 3 of them into a boiling water, what comes out is what differentiates many from the crowd. While carrot will come out to be a lot softer, and egg will harden, coffee beans is what we need to emulate. It retains its shape. It changes the color of the water and the aroma. In context of resilience, I think we need to be that coffee bean. We don't need to come out sober, disheartened like an egg. We don't need to necessarily come out like a carrot who's lost its confidence. There is no problem in failing, kids. What is important is ability to get back and try again. Failing is not a problem. failure is one of the best teachers around. Yes, I don't expect you to make the same mistakes time and again. You need to learn from your mistakes, but do not shy away from failing. Do not shy away from making mistakes. Let's try and understand what it takes to bounce back. I think generations we've been doing it. Can you think of your superhero? If you have to become a superhero for the school's fancy dress competition or in life, who would you be and why? Maybe the fancy dress is an aberration, but who's your superhero? And if you have to become one, who would it be and why? Which characteristic of your superhero attracts you the most? I would look at, yes, Shreyash, we can increase our elasticity, and we're going to talk about it. And the whole idea about resilience is to increase your elasticity. We will touch on that topic. I'm wanting to understand from you, who's your superhero? If you have to become a superhero, who would you want to be and why? I'm waiting for responses in the chat window. It could be an idol, and I'm absolutely fine. Someone you look up to. So, superhero could be. Maybe yes, Tanmay. That's amazing. Somebody's written Mahatma Gandhi. Look at an individual's ability. If I need to look at the classic case of emotional intelligence, I think people like Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi would be some of the finest examples. For want of time, I'm gonna probably move on. But I want you to think of who your idol is, who's the superhero, who's your superhero, and why. Because I spoke, it's absolutely fantastic. Yes, for many of us, our parents are our superheroes. They are our real life role models. I'm probably using some cases around me just to make my point. Look at each one of them. None of them was born with a silver spoon. I want you to reflect and understand winners are amongst us, and winners are not winners by their luck. They're winners because they have slogged for it, because they have an amazing ability to accept failures as temporary and move from there. I also want you to recognize that you are much stronger than what you think you are. Yes. Some of the most successful people that we see around us, you would find one common thing amongst all of them is their ability to take adversity, to accept failure and work on it. I want you to recognize that you guys are much stronger than what you think. Can you tell me, what are you reading on the screen? Are there in 2, 3, 4 words, 5 words that you're reading from your screen? Just type it out quickly. Some of you read opportunity is nowhere. Others read it as opportunity is now here. There are also some of us who read opportunity, I snow. So, you know, I respect each one of you. Whether you read opportunity is nowhere or opportunity is now here. Trust you me, it is not necessarily an outcome of your eye span. In some cases, while it could be the case, for many times, it is the outcome of my self-conversation. It's important that as children, you recognize that you do not control everything under the sun. I want you to recognize that things will happen. There'll be times when it will be in your control. There'll be times when you will choose. When you are in control does not mean you choose. There'll be times when it will be outside of your control. Or you're not choosing it. Regardless of that, it is important that I understand where the locus of control is. How many of you understand what is locus? Can somebody help me understand what is a locus? All of you have studied, right? I'm sure it's there in class 9's syllabus, or much before that. What is locus? I'm waiting for responses, just in case you thought I'd taken a pause. No, it's not an insect. Tanmay said it was removed from my syllabus. God bless you, Kate. So locus is that central point in your circle. Yes. And we are using it figuratively. All of us in this room either have an internal locus of control or an external locus of control. That's okay. Now, locus is not necessarily location, but regardless, let's move on. And I want you to recognize this. I want you to reflect the last time when you were unsuccessful. The last time when the outcome was not what you were asking for. What went wrong? Did you look inwards and say, I did not put in as much as I could have? There's a world of difference between should and could. Or I looked back and said, hey, listen, I was unlucky. Luck doesn't favor me much. Or I looked at and said, hey, listen, my teachers are absolutely biased, you know. वो हमेशा राहुल को ही करते हैं. You know, my teacher has a bias. How often does people come and say, listen, you know, I can't speak English because I come in from a humble background. And then some of the smartest teachers teaching at Oxford today are coming in from that humble background. You know, all of us get inspired by our ex-president. Imagine if winners starts to believe that they are not in control of the outcomes. I agree, not all occasions you can be on control, but what is my general theme that I have? What is the conversation that I usually do? I did not score well because there was very strict marking, because the syllabus was, you know, the questions were out of the syllabus. I was not selected for the dance competition because there was favoritism. I could not participate because I was unlucky, or I am taking ownership of the outcomes. I would also like to raise a word of caution that some of us who believe that whether the earthquake will happen or not happen, whether it will rain or not happen is also in my control, are also dangerously putting in a lot of pressure on themselves. You know, I wish I had more time and I would have probably used assessment. And in case some of you are interested in that assessment, you can drop me a message, WhatsApp message with your email IDs, and I will send you an assessment that you can do, and then you can probably discuss, or I can share the report. But the moot point here is what is my conversation happening with myself? Am I looking inwards for outcomes, or am I looking at others? I did not get my promotion because my boss, my supervisor is very controlling. He's unfair. Typically, people amongst us would have 3 locus points. They would either look at themselves as people who are responsible for outcomes. And then there are others who would either look at other people who would believe that others have a greater contribution on my success. And the third category of people who also have an external locus of control are those who believe in luck. You know, when I went to a management school and we were discussing performance, none of us refused that there is always an element of luck. But luck is not the primary factor which makes me successful. For some of you who are asking, what do I need to do? You need to continuously work towards increasing your circle of influence, which is the innermost circle. Because this is what you are in control of. And you need to continuously work on increasing your circle of influence. Can the red line overlap the blue line? Answer is no. It will be insane to believe that, you know, you can achieve. But yeah, a lot of our fears, a lot of our inhibitions can be addressed. And it is extremely important that we work on them at our schools. Schools are the best places where you can learn, because you're very closely knit, you're very safe environment, you can experiment a lot more in school than probably in college. The greater your circle of influence is, higher is your internality score, higher is your score for internal locus of control. This is what probably we need to look at. This is what you can do to increase your resilience or your internal locus of control. You need to be driven by a strong purpose and goal. You will need to learn to be resourceful. Remember, resilience is not necessarily a skill that comes from your parents. It's not something which is hereditary. It can be learned. In fact, you absorb more from your environment. One of the good ways to increase your circle of influence is by understanding and acknowledging and avoiding negative thoughts, or staying with negative thoughts for a prolonged period. When I say that you need to be driven by goals, I'm also privy to the fact that your goals need to be smart. They need to be realistic. When you put in a goal which is so stretched that it only strains you, it doesn't do any good. You need to be realistically optimistic. To be resilient, I want you to recognize that it's important. Your health is equally important. You need to look at your nutrition. You need to look at your sleep. You need to play. Playing is not just for your emotional or your physical well-being. It goes much beyond. Learn to be resourceful. It's an important attribute. It's an important trait that the world of work will ask you to have. Something that you can practice, it is called a hope model. Seek help and be of help when people need it. There is absolutely nothing wrong in reaching out and seeking help. If you think when you ask for help that you're coming across as someone who's weak is untrue. In the generation that you are living in, when you reach out for help or when you support someone, you create very strong bonds. Talk to people, share your concerns, share your fears, talk about it, listen to people. I was talking about persistence, perseverance. Try again, but when you try the second time, try it differently, be aware and understand your mistakes before you do it. बहुत बार मैंने बच्चों को देखा है वो एक ही चीज बार करते हैं and assuming that if you do the same mistake 100 times, you'll get the answer. that's rarely going to happen. Then you're depending upon luck to get those answers. Finally, if you come across as someone who's comfortable, who's at ease, allow yourself to flow.